Right now, as you read this, there is a war happening inside you. It is not the kind of war that makes headlines or fills history books. It is quieter, more insidious, and infinitely more dangerous. It is the war between who you really are and who you think you need to be to survive in this world. You feel it, don't you? That constant tension in your chest, the exhaustion that sleep can't cure, the way certain words or situations hit you like physical blows while others barely register. You've probably told yourself it is just stress, just life, just the way things are. But here is what nobody wants to tell you. Asterisk, asterisk, you are not stressed. You are fragmented. Asterisk, asterisk. Every day, you wake up and put on armor that is crushing you from the inside out. You've become so skilled at protecting yourself from external pain that you've trapped yourself in a prison of internal suffering. The most terrifying part, you've convinced yourself this is strength. Here is the devastating truth that will change everything. The pain you are trying so desperately to avoid is the exact pain you need to embrace to become free. Asterisk, asterisk. I know how that sounds. Every self-help guru has told you to embrace your pain while offering you a neat little package of morning affirmations and gratitude journals. But this isn't about positive thinking or manifestation or any of the other surface-level solutions that leave you feeling emptier than before. This is about something far more profound and infinitely more terrifying. The complete dismantling of the false self you've constructed to navigate a world that taught you love was conditional. Think about it. When was the last time you felt truly, authentically okay with who you are when nobody's watching? When was the last time you didn't calculate your response based on what would make others comfortable or impressed or less likely to leave? For you can't remember, can you? Asterisk, asterisk. Because somewhere along the way, maybe in childhood, maybe in that first devastating heartbreak, maybe in that moment when you realized the world was far more dangerous than you'd been told, you made a decision that seemed brilliant at the time, but has been slowly poisoning you ever since. You decided that the real you wasn't enough, that the real you was too much, that the real you needed to be hidden, controlled, perfected, or fundamentally altered to be worthy of love, success, or even basic human connection. What you don't realize is that every time you swallow your real thoughts, every time you perform happiness when you are dying inside, every time you say, "I am fine," when you are anything but, you are feeding a shadow version of yourself. This shadow isn't some mystical concept. It is the accumulated weight of every authentic impulse you've suppressed, every genuine emotion you've deemed inappropriate, every part of your true nature you've banished to maintain your carefully constructed image. And here is what is truly sinister: this shadow doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It grows stronger, more desperate, and more creative in its attempts to get your attention. Asterisk, asterisk. It shows up as the inexplicable anxiety that grips you when everything should be going well. It manifests as the self-sabotage that destroys relationships just when they start getting real. It emerges as the crushing depression that descends without warning, leaving you wondering why you can't just be grateful for what you have. Your shadow is the part of you that is screaming, "What about me? What about what I actually want? What about who I really am?" But instead of listening, you've learned to silence it with work, with substances, with endless scrolling, with toxic relationships that confirm your worst beliefs about yourself, with a constant stream of achievements that never quite fill the void. There is a moment in every person's life when they have to choose. It usually comes disguised as a crisis, a devastating loss, a betrayal that shatters your worldview, a breakdown that can't be hidden or explained away. In that moment, you have two options. For you can rebuild the same fragile structure that just collapsed, or you can use the rubble to build something completely different. Asterisk, asterisk. Most people choose option one. They patch up the walls, reinforce the defenses, and go back to the exhausting work of pretending everything is fine. They emerge from their crisis with new coping mechanisms, better boundaries, and a harder shell. They think they've grown stronger. They haven't. They've just gotten better at hiding. But some people, the brave ones, the ones who've reached the end of their rope with living a half-life, choose option 2. They look at the wreckage of their carefully constructed identity and ask the most dangerous question in the world, asterisk, asterisk, what if who I really am is actually enough? Asterisk, asterisk. This question is dangerous, because once you ask it, really ask it, you can't unask it. It will pursue you through every interaction, every decision, every moment of your life, until you find the courage to discover the answer. What happens next isn't pretty. It is not Instagram, worthy or suitable for inspirational quotes. It is the psychological equivalent of performing surgery on yourself without anesthesia. You begin to notice the vast gulf between who you are and who you've been pretending to be. You start to see how much energy you've been expending on maintaining an image that was never really you. You realize that most of your relationships have been built on a foundation of performance rather than authenticity. And it feels like dying. Asterisk, asterisk, because in a very real sense it is. The false self you've been nurturing for years, decades maybe, has to die for the real you to emerge. And that false self will not go quietly. It will fight back with every weapon in its arsenal. Shame, fear, guilt, self-doubt, depression, anxiety. It will whisper that you are being selfish, that you are hurting people, that you were better off before. It will show you everything you stand to lose if you continue down this path of radical authenticity. And it is not entirely wrong. You will lose things. You'll lose relationships that were built on your ability to be what others needed you to be. You'll lose opportunities that required you to suppress parts of yourself. You'll lose the comfortable numbness that comes from living on the surface of your own life. But here is what you'll gain. Everything. Asterisk, asterisk. When you stop running from the parts of yourself you've deemed unacceptable, something miraculous happens. Not miraculous in a mystical sense, but miraculous in the way that simple truths can transform everything when you finally have the courage to live them. You discover that the very things you've been trying to hide or fix about yourself are often the source of your greatest strength. Your sensitivity, which you've been told is weakness, becomes a superpower of empathy and intuition. Your anger, which you've been taught to suppress, becomes a fierce guardian of your boundaries and values. Your sadness, which you've been trying to medicate away, becomes a doorway to profound compassion and connection. This isn't about becoming perfect. This isn't about achieving some Zen-like state where nothing bothers you. This is about becoming whole, integrated, authentic, unafraid of your own complexity. When you integrate your shadow, when you embrace the full spectrum of who you are, something remarkable happens to your relationship with external pain. It doesn't disappear. You still feel hurt, disappointment, loss. But these experiences no longer have the power to shatter you because you are no longer hiding from yourself. For you can't break something that is already whole. Asterisk, asterisk. This transformation doesn't happen through wishful thinking or positive affirmations. It requires specific, often uncomfortable actions that most people aren't willing to take. But since you've read this far, I know you are not most people. Start with radical honesty about your current state. Asterisk, asterisk. Stop saying you are fine when you are not. Stop pretending to enjoy things you hate. Stop agreeing with opinions you don't hold. This doesn't mean being cruel or inappropriate. It means being truthful about your actual experience. Practice sitting with discomfort without immediately trying to fix it. Asterisk, asterisk. When anxiety arises, when sadness hits, when anger flares, resist the urge to distract yourself. Sit with it. Breathe with it. Ask it what it is trying to tell you. Your emotions aren't problems to be solved. They're information to be received. Begin the work of shadow integration. Asterisk, asterisk. This requires looking at the parts of yourself you've rejected or hidden. What aspects of your personality have you learned to suppress? What desires have you convinced yourself are wrong or inappropriate? What parts of your authentic self have you buried to maintain your image? Set boundaries that honor your true self rather than your false self. Asterisk, asterisk. This is perhaps the most difficult part, because it often means disappointing people who have grown accustomed to your self-sacrifice. But boundaries aren't walls. They're the definition of where you end and others begin. Surround yourself with people who can handle your authenticity. Asterisk, asterisk, this might mean letting go of relationships that require you to perform, and it definitely means being willing to be disliked by those who preferred your mask to your face. Here is what nobody tells you about this journey. Fiancé, you've tasted authentic living. You can never go back to performing. Asterisk, asterisk. It becomes physically impossible to maintain the old ways of being. Your body rebels against inauthenticity. Your soul rejects the costume. You've awakened something that can't be put back to sleep. And while this can feel isolating at first, because you are no longer playing the games that most people are still trapped in, it is actually the beginning of real connection. When you show up as yourself, you give others permission to do the same. When you stop performing, you create space for genuine intimacy. People will be drawn to your authenticity like water in a desert, even if they can't articulate why. There is something magnetic about someone who is at peace with themselves. Someone who doesn't need your approval to know their worth. Someone who has done the hard work of integration. You become unshakable, not because nothing affects you, but because you've learned to trust yourself to handle whatever does. You've proven to yourself that you can survive your own emotions, face your own shadows, and emerge more whole than before. Right now, you have a choice. You can close this tab, return to your regularly scheduled programming, and continue the exhausting work of maintaining a self that isn't really you. You can keep hoping that somehow, if you just get better at performing, the pain will stop. Or you can accept this invitation to the most important journey of your life. The journey back to yourself. Asterisk, asterisk. It won't be easy. There will be moments when you question everything. When the path seems too difficult, when the old ways of being seem simpler and safer. There will be people who prefer your mask to your face, who try to convince you that your authentic self is too much, too little, too different. But on the other side of that fear, that discomfort, that difficult work of integration, lies something most people never experience. Genuine peace with who you are. Asterisk, asterisk. Not the fragile peace that comes from getting everything you want, but the unshakable peace that comes from wanting everything you are. The wound you've been trying to heal by avoiding it. It can only be healed by entering it fully, exploring it completely, and emerging with the wisdom it contains. Your pain isn't your enemy. Your shadow isn't your weakness. Your authentic self isn't too much. You are exactly what the world needs. But first, you need to believe you are exactly what you need. The war inside you can end today, not through victory or defeat, but through integration. Not by choosing a side, but by realizing you were never meant to be divided in the first place. You were meant to be whole. Asterisk, asterisk. The question isn't whether you are ready for this journey. The question is whether you are finally tired enough of the alternative to begin. Your authentic self is waiting. It has been waiting your entire life. Isn't it time you met?